What's up, Says So Squad and Scandalites? This is Ashley with Ashley Says So, and I am back with another old Hollywood scandals video. And before we begin, I would like to say that everything in this video is alleged. I am not sure what's true or what's false. I am just here to pull out the gossip and tell you guys a story. I also want to say welcome to all of the new subscribers. Y'all are now Scandalites and part of the Says So Squad. Y'all are my cousins, aunties, sisters, brothers. That's how we get down here. Also, I have been seeing a lot of comments where you guys are asking about my novel, The Wayward Life of Geraldine Jones. So what I will do from here on out is leave a link in the description of this video and every other video, and you guys can just click on that link. It will take you straight to Amazon and you can purchase the book if you would like to. This video today is going to be about Hollywood goddess, honey, Joan Crawford. Let's get to it. Lucille Fay LeSueur was born on March 23rd, 1904. Some sources say, other sources say 1906, in San Antonio, Texas. Her mother's name was Anna Bell Johnson and her father's name was Thomas E. LeSueur. She had two older siblings. There was a sister named Daisy who died before Lucille was born, and a brother named Hal. Now her father, Thomas LeSueur, stuck around after the birth of the first two children. But then after the birth of Lucille, all of a sudden he didn't want to be a family man anymore. So he left the family when she was just 10 months old. Her mother, Anna, of course, understood that it was going to be hard for a single woman with children in this time period. So when Lucille was about 4 years old, she married a man named Henry Casson. Around the age of 9 or 10, Lucille was determined to become famous. She made up her mind, honey, she was going to become a star. And she also made up her mind that she was going to do whatever she could to get there. And this explains the next thing that I'm about to tell you about. Some sources say that the stepfather, Henry Casson, started to sexually molest Lucille. And I think from now on, even though her name at this time is still Lucille, I'm going to start calling her Joan because I don't want you guys to get mixed up, okay? So around 10, 11 years old, Joan's stepfather, Henry Casson, some sources say, started to sexually abuse Joan. But hold on, let's drop some gossip and tea right here, honey, because other sources, the more gossipy sources, say that he wasn't the only one complicit in this ordeal. They say that little Joan herself put the moves on her stepfather, like she actively acted like a grown woman and seduced him to sleep with her because she wanted to see what she can get out of him. From the way I feel about it, she is a child, so whether she came and tried to put the moves on him or not, that is still molestation. She cannot consent as a child. The third version says that yes, he did sexually molest her, and him doing this warped her mind into feeling like they were in some type of relationship. And this is actually the one that I do believe, because history says that Joan's relationship with her mother grew strange. She was kind of looking at her mom like the other woman. Sooner or later, though, the abuse was discovered, and her mother, Anna, blamed Joan. She felt like Joan put the moves on her husband and that she was trying to take her husband from her, and their relationship was really no more good. I mean, it got probably better a little bit later, but at this point in time, it was no more good. Not only did Anna blame her daughter, Henry Casson, sorry self, blamed little Joan, basically siding with his wife, being like, you know, yeah, she trying to come in between us, you know what I'm saying? She knew I couldn't resist her. You know, this is crazy. This little girl is a child, which by this time she probably was about 14, I'm not sure, but still a child. Because her mother, Anna, chose Henry Casson over her daughter, Joan was sent off to a Catholic girls' school called St. Agnes Academy. Then she was transferred from St. Agnes after about a year to Rockingham Academy. And it was here that she had her first real experience with a boyfriend. This guy was a trumpet player and his name was Ray Sterling. And he was a great influence on Joan. He pushed her and tried to tell her that she could be whatever she wanted to be, but she needed to get her grades. And she tried to appease him. But then when she enrolled in Stevens College, she dropped out after a few months because she felt like she was just not prepared. And really, that's not what she wanted to do. She wanted to be a star. Now, a lot of people do not know this, but before Joan Crawford became a Hollywood star, she was a dancer. And at first, she could not dance that well. She was not great or anything, but she learned how to put her own little spin on everything. You know what I'm saying? She put some stank on it, honey. And when she did this, people took notice. So she's dancing now, and she joins a traveling review, a dance troupe. And while she's with that dance troupe, she meets a guy named Eddie Smith. And they broke, they don't really have no money. He becomes her dance partner, but they are not living well. So she moves in with him, and he kind of has the bright idea, and she does too. I'm not trying to make her a victim or anything, but she starts to dance nude. You know what I'm saying? She starts to appear in peep shows and things like that. This was being videoed and actually shown all over in different peep show theaters. This ended up making her a little bit of money. So, you know, eventually she was okay with it. But this, of course, is not what she wanted to do. She's so desperate to become a star that eventually she moves to Chicago, and in 1923, she is busted for prostitution. She's working as a stripper and going home and sleeping with the guys afterwards. I mean, she was doing the most. After the arrest, she figures, this ain't it. So she goes back to the traveling dance troupe and she continues dancing with them. And then she is spotted by a man named Joseph J. Schubert. And he brings her to Broadway in New York and puts her in a show called Innocent Eyes. And while she was dancing in Innocent Eyes, she had her innocent eyes on another man. And he was a saxophone player, honey. She loved them horn players, baby. His name was Mr. James Welton. And they fell head over heels for each other. So much so that they got married. And this marriage right here, her very first marriage, is the only marriage that she ever had that was based on love. Everybody else that she married later on were big wigs. They were big names. Joan had become a person who married for wealth. You know what I mean? She married to get a leg up. She used these men like a gardener used the hoe. So after this marriage, everything else was about, what can you do for me, sir? Which is also why this marriage did not last for very long. She left him because, I mean, he was just a sax player. He possibly had some connections when it had to do with music and things like that, but she wanted to act. She wanted to get on screen. He could not offer her that. So Joan was like, I'm sorry, dude. I got to get with a man who could take me somewhere. Let's just put it like this. She started politicking. And in 1925, at the age of 21 years old, after politicking with several men, she finally found the right one, William Haynes. She also made contact with a guy named Nils Grenlin, and he was a publicist. And he helped her out in that area. With these two people on her team, Joan was able to secure the most coveted prize of all, you guys, a screen test with MGM. I believe when she first got there, she failed a couple of those screen tests, but then she learned how to use one of her best assets, and that was her eyes, those big searchlight eyes, honey, looking over her shoulder, you know, being very expressive, and they loved it. She was signed to MGM. In her very first appearance on screen, she was cast as a body double to Hollywood queen, honey, Norma Shearer. Now, this was a big deal because I don't know if you guys understand how huge Norma Shearer was at the time, but baby was huge, honey. And just the fact that Joan was cast as a body double looked wonderful on her resume. That's how powerful Norma Shearer was, just her magneticism at the time, because she was bringing in the big buck. And now we get to two different versions of this tale, because the first version says that when Joan walked up to Norma and introduced herself, and Norma basically like didn't want to talk to her, you know, felt like Joan was beneath her, just being nasty. But the second version says that Joan pretty much came on set looking at Norma like, yeah, that crown you wearing, that's gonna be mine. I'm finna take your title. And Norma was looking at her right back like, oh, okay, yeah. You think you finna take my title? You think you finna be the queen? Well, baby, you got some hard work to do. And the reason Norma had this attitude is because she had a trump card, baby. She was married to the one and only Irving Thalberg. He was the studio boss. But Joan wasn't worried about this at first. You know, she just felt like, I done politicked with so many men before, baby. Irving ain't nothing but a thing, honey. Then she found out pretty soon that Irving really actually did love his wife and he wanted to remain loyal. That is when Joan became furious. She couldn't use him as a stepladder, so now she's busting into his office. You giving your wife all the good movies. I see what you doing here. How is a girl supposed to make it? And then telling other people like, of course I'm not getting no movies. Who can compete against Norma Shearer? She's sleeping with the boss. But that still didn't get her anywhere. But see, y'all got to understand just how determined Joan Crawford was. It is said that nobody decided to make Joan Crawford a star. Joan Crawford decided to make herself a star. and she set to work to do just that. The very first thing that happened is her name was changed from Lucille LeSueur because people said that sounded like a sewer, and they threw out the name Joan Crawford to her, and Joan at first was like, I don't like Crawford. It sounds like crawfish. I need something else. And they're like, no, you need to be called Joan Crawford. So soon she was like, Crawford, I can work with that. That'll be fine. She kept the name and the name stuck. But that poses a problem. Who the heck is Joan Crawford? I mean, they barely even knew Lucille LeSueur, but they would have knew that name before they knew Joan Crawford. But Joan wasn't worried about it, y'all. Joan sets out to let the world know who she was. So she went back to the basics, honey, and that was dancing. And she was dancing all over. She was dancing on the beach pier whenever they had competition. She was dancing in hotels. She would go to all type of big time parties that were held by bigger celebrities, put on dance moves there, and sooner or later she kind of became the people's favorite. So boom, Joan Crawford has a small fan base. Now it was time for part 2 of her plan, and she went back to the basics with something else, and that is finding a man to get to a higher level. So Joan went out to the ocean of men. She watching the fish, right? And then threw her net out far and wide and long. And then all of a sudden she starts to reel that net back in. And baby, when she gets it there, she pulls out a heck of a catch. Douglas Fairbanks Jr. Woo! Y'all must not know who that is. We talking about Douglas Fairbanks Jr., baby. This is royalty. His father was Hollywood's first king ever. His name, Douglas Fairbanks Sr. His mother, stepmother, was Hollywood's first queen ever. As a matter of fact, she is accredited to being Hollywood's first actress on screen, period. Y'all, Miss Mary Pickford was this man's stepmother. Douglas Fairbanks Jr. is the equivalent of the Prince of Wales over in Britain, okay? He was the royal prince here in America and here in Hollywood. So this was a catch of a lifetime. And because of this fish was not easy. Like she had to fight, fight when she was pulling in. And the main reason it wasn't easy because his parents felt like Joan Crawford was trash. She was not good enough for their son. They felt like she was a trailer trash woman that learned how to talk well, and she came and used her magic on their son. They were none too pleased, and they did not want him to marry her. But at the end of it all, her womanly magic tricks won the day, and she and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. married June 3rd, 1929. So this did it. Joan's plan had worked. She was not anywhere close to taking Norma Shearer's crown, but she had set herself up to be a serious contender, because with this publicity, people loving her dance, people loving the fact that she is America's new princess, MGM Studio had no choice but to take notice of her. They had no choice but to build on that publicity and put her in the movies. And I'm talking about almost every movie. But it's when she started making back-to-back movies with Clark Gable that Joan Crawford became a movie star. She had her own walk. She had her own talk. She had her own style. She was now appearing in Photo Play magazine, which is an old-timey magazine for celebrities. She really has arrived, but I do want to say that this is the first version of Joan Crawford. We do not know this version. This is for the generation that's older than us. A lot of them are probably deceased now. This is their Joan Crawford. Just wanted to put that out there. But there was a downside to all of this fame and popularity as well. Her mother and brother started taking advantage of this. They were telling everybody they knew that they were Joan Crawford's sibling and parent. So they were making money off of Joan's name. Also, her brother Hal was asking her to send checks to him to support him, okay? And then when she tried to stop, because she didn't want to be taking care of no other grown man, he threatened to leak negative stories about her character to the press. There's something else that was bothering Joan. The same time that she was making her rise and her debut, there was an up-and-coming blonde beauty making a splash. She was one of Universal's actresses, and she also had big searchlight eyes, except they drooped a little bit at the sides. And her name was Bette Davis. And Joan was looking at Betty, kind of competitive, like, I need to keep an eye out for you. And she was right, because Bette Davis was moving up in popularity fast. And we'll get to that a little bit later, but for right now, let's get back to the relationship between Douglas Fairbanks Jr. and Joan Crawford. So Douglas Fairbanks Jr. turned out to be very happy to see that she had become a star. But then he started to get a little bit concerned for her because he felt like, golly, they keeping you on the set for like 24 hours sometimes. Why are your movies like like that. My movies are not like that. They don't keep me overnight on the set. Like, they gonna work you to death. Joan is saying things like, this is just what it is. I'm a big time star now. I have to stay on the lot. They need me there. Baby, that man started checking around and found out that the real reason is because she was cheating with Clark Gable. And when he found out, he was very angry about it, and he called his wife out on her behavior and became like a very jealous type man. But Joan was like, let's not act like you was just sitting at home just waiting on me. You been out here in these streets too. And it was true. He was also cheating on Joan. And you know how Douglas was looking after this. Yeah, sitting up there looking like Boo Boo the Fool. But he didn't stay like that for long. After a while, he was like, Steele, you need to stop cheating. Basically being that jealous man that feels like they can go out and do what they want to do, but Joan needs to stay faithful. Joan wasn't finna put up with this that much longer, so their marriage ended in the year 1933. 1933 was also the year that Joan starred in a movie beside the very distinguished actor Franchot. Franchot was very handsome to a lot of women at that time period, and Joan was no exception. She also thought that he was handsome, and Joan would have been content with it just being like flirting. Maybe they would sleep around here and there. That is until she found out that that little blonde actress over at Universal was in love with Franchot. That's right. Bette Davis loved Franchot. She wanted him to be her husband. Oh, baby. When Joan Crawford found out about this, all of a sudden she's hanging all over Franchot, loving his every word. Franchot, that's so funny. And she's not the only one doing this. Bette Davis loves him, so of course she's been flirting with him and putting the moves on him as well. But see, Bette Davis was not no match for Joan Crawford, honey. And Joan Crawford had tricks up her sleeve. It was an easy choice to make. The night that Joan told Franchot to stop by her home so they can talk, he pulled up to that doggone house, knocked on that door, and when the door was open, Franchot was floored because there was Joan Crawford naked as a bee. Honey, she yanked Franchot in that house, put them long legs around him, and she and Franchot were married in 1935. And Bette Davis was furious at this slight. How could she? Now, gossip says the reason that Joan Crawford took Franchot out of Bette Davis's grasp is because Bette Davis and Joan Crawford actually met at some ceremony for actors, something like that, I don't know. But while they were there, Joan Crawford thought that Bette Davis was fine, honey. She wanted her little piece. So she walks up to Bette and she tells her, I want you to come home with me tonight. Let's do some things. And Bette Davis gets upset about this. She's like, how dare you approach me with that? Do I look like I engage in that type of behavior? And so Joan was like, okay, cool. But from that day on, it is said that Joan Crawford had a vendetta against Bette Davis. I don't believe this. I really don't. I don't believe that version. Simply because I don't believe that Joan Crawford was bisexual. Now, I do believe that there's a chance that she has messed around with women before. But I feel like that's more of a party situation where she's doing it to please a man. But it wasn't because she was just straight bisexual where she was just approaching women and like, oh, I want to take you home. I just can't believe that. So Joan finds out very quickly that Franchot is not the man for her. She's a pretty big star at this time, and she's a much bigger star than him. She wants to turn them into the Hollywood king and queen. She wants them to be a power couple. So when she tries to push him, go take classes, do what you got to do so you can get some great roles, become a good leading man, Franchot is like, I don't want to do all that. I'm cool with just being an actor. I don't need to be the top of my game, this king and all that kind of stuff. I just want to act, and as long as I'm doing that, I'm good. And Joan is like, who did I marry? I'm trying to marry a man that's on top, a man that can get me connections, a man that's not on top or lower than me, cannot do these things, so something gonna have to give. And something did give. Spencer Tracy. He was a big-time leading man in Hollywood at this time, and in 1937, they had their affair. They also ended up starring in a movie together called The Mannequin. And Joan, of course, was wrong for this affair, but Spencer Tracy was wrong too. He also was married. After her affair with Spencer Tracy, Joan was named the Queen of the Movies by Life magazine. Joan is tickled to death, and also she had conquered Norma Shearer's title. So this was a good time for Joan Crawford. But again, on the home front, things were sticky. She had had 2 miscarriages during this marriage with Franchot. Also, he had begun to drink, and he became violent and started hitting on her. And I'm pretty pretty sure that Joan had kind of grown to love him and all, but ain't nobody finna stand around and let you hit on me. So they ended up divorcing in the year 1939. So Joan has just gone through a divorce, but the year 1939 gets even crazier. Now we got child star Jackie Cooper. He's now 17, okay? And he likes to play badminton. He loves it. But oh no, he doesn't have any place to play badminton. What is he supposed to do? So Joan is like, let me help this teenager out. He needs a place to play his game. Let me offer up my house. And that's what she tells him. You can come play badminton on my court. So he's like, okay. So he gets there and he's playing the game, and Joan has on a little short tennis skirt, all right? So Jackie Cooper gets a glimpse up her skirt and she doesn't say anything. So Jackie was like, let me find out this old lady trying to let me hit. This is the one and only Joan Crawford. If I can get this, I can get anybody. He starts to spit a little game, just to test the waters. So he says something which essentially translates to, so you gonna let me hit? Or something like that, okay? And Joan didn't even say anything, honey. Walked over to the window, shut the blinds, and they got it on right then and right there. And Joan Crawford at this time is 34 years old. And see, I know I told y'all that every relationship that Joan was gonna have from here on out was about a leg up in the acting community and stuff like that. But child, this one right here was just pure lust. Joan know that little boy couldn't do nothing for her tail. Then slept with that little old boy, just lustful, honey. That's the messy side of 1939. Now let's get to the professional side of 1939. Joan Crawford stars in a movie called The Women. Norma Shearer plays the lead. They cast Joan Crawford opposite the lead. The studio bosses had to know that there was some competition there, because it went like this. Norma Shearer played the housewife, the good, the noble, the kind, the dutiful housewife. And Joan Crawford played the side chick. Yes, that's what this movie is about. And baby, let me tell you something. Joan Crawford knocked the socks off of everybody in that movie. She played that side chick so well, and she played the messy side chick too. The one you just wanted to knock out. She laughed in this woman's face, basically told her, yeah, I'm sleeping with your man. What you gonna do about it? He love it here. Of course, it was in 1930s terms, but that is essentially what she was saying. She played it so well that I wanted to go through the screen and slap her tail. And other people felt the same way, because when the movie came out, the reviews were saying she did an excellent job. I mean, that woman acted her tail off, but she was coming for the crown. And with this movie, she snatched that crown off Norma Shearer's head and placed it right on her head, honey. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna put a clip in the description of how Joan and Norma Shearer, how they were reacting to each other. Go watch it, y'all. And so Joan is like, yes, I finally did it. Like, I finally got that heifer, looking at me like I wasn't nothing. But while she was doing all that, the MGM studio heads were like, yeah, you got Norma's crown, good job. Well, guess what, Joan? It don't matter, because now you have been listed as box office poison. Joan Crawford, Norma Shearer, Dolores Del Rio, Fred Astaire. It was a lot of actors and actresses that were listed as box office poison. Let me tell you what that means. That means that they were A-list stars and could act their behinds off, but the movies just were not bringing in enough money to cover their salaries, so that made them box office poison. And that also put them on a block list. They just were not getting the roles anymore. So that shut Joan's little celebrating down real quick, because The Women happened in 1939, and by 1940, this was happening. Most of the actors and actresses on that list either gave up, they panicked, or they started taking any movie roles they could get because they hadn't saved money. A lot of them retired, but see, not Joan. Homegirl was a fighter, and she was like, I became a star, and I'm going to remain a star. So while everybody else is panicking, losing their mind, going crazy, Joan herself steps back, takes a deep breath, and lets it out. She used her head and she started to think. Who is it that really make people famous? Who makes celebrities what they are? Not studio heads, not anybody that has to do with the film industry. It's the people, it's the fans, it's the audience. See, Joan Crawford was super smart, y'all. She had already been 10 steps ahead of the studio and everybody else. I say that because all this time that she was famous and a superstar, Joan loved her fans. She never had too much time where she couldn't stop, take a picture with her fans, to give them a kiss, shake their hand. This woman responded to every single fan letter personally, which makes me feel bad because I can't even barely respond to a doggone comment. I ain't lazy though, y'all, I promise I ain't. This woman had it down pat, and she knew that as long as she can keep the fans happy and interested in her, there's no way that MGM could stop her shine. She knows that she's no longer this 20-year-old actress that steps on the scene. She is older now. Most women her age have babies now. They are mothers. She also knows that when a celebrity is becoming washed up, what is the first thing they do to get the audience's attention? It even still happens today. That is, they adopt a child, and that's what Joan Crawford did in 1940. She adopts her first child. The child's name is Joan at first, and then it's changed to Christina. Think of celebrities. They do this all the time. This is not new, you guys. This has been happening for years. If they feel like they're losing the audience's attention or the public's attention, they will adopt a child because they know fans go crazy over little babies or over children. As soon as Joan gets the baby in her hands, she invites all the cameras in the world. You know, they're all in the house. They're filming her with the baby. She looks so motherly, so beautiful, so classy. She has this long flowy skirt on and, you know, stuff buttoned up to here. You know, she's really a mother now. The fans ate it up. So now that Joan sees that this whole motherhood angle is working, why not go ahead and make it into a family? And so she marries a man named Philip Terry, July 21st, 1942. And shortly after this, she acquires another child. It is a boy, and she names him Christopher. And the reason I said acquired instead of adopt is because here go a little scandal in here now. People don't know how Joan Crawford got that child, honey. A lot of people believe that she bought that child from some poor mother or something like that. Some people even think she took it. I believe she bought him from somewhere. So Joan's plan has worked with the public. She has kept them interested. She has cultivated her family image. Now it's time to work on the studios. So she revamps herself. She rebuilds herself from the bottom up. Those curved, thin eyebrows are gone. They are replaced with thick, dramatic eyebrows. Those cheekbones are accentuated to the gods, honey. They're sticking out like Maleficent or somebody. Her eyes, which have always been sharp and always have stuck out, become even sharper. Her hair gets longer and darker and is more tamed when she styles it. And all that is fine, but it is when she adds her claim to fame that Joan Crawford arrives. Shoulder pads, honey. I mean, she puts them in there. This is square shoulder Joan Crawford. This is the one that we know. When you hear the name Joan Crawford, you think of this Joan Crawford. This is the Joan Crawford that will really slap you. How dare you? Psh. You know, hit you all upside your face. That's another clip I'm gonna add in the description. It's just a video with a collage of Joan Crawford slapping people, but y'all, it's so funny. But anyways, this is who she is now, the second version of Joan Crawford. The studio bosses at MGM are like, you know, I don't know what she's doing all that for. Okay, she wants to change her look. She want to play the mother role. Well, guess what? She can do that because we don't want her anymore. We're gonna get rid of her. And they offer her $100,000 to buy her out of the contract, but that is it. 18 years thrown out the window, honey. And she's sad, you know what I'm saying? She's like, okay, I'm gonna miss you here. Just give me my money. They give her the $100,000. It appears Joan Crawford has lost, but baby, she's going to win in the end. That is the way that happens. So she loses her contract at MGM on June 29th. By July 1st, she is signed with Warner Brothers, $500,000 for 3 pictures. That is a lot of freaking money for 3 pictures. And no, it's not the same amount she was getting paid at MGM. Still though, she wasn't finna be broke. You know what I'm saying? So not even 2 days after she loses that first contract, she is re-signed, y'all. And a lot of people think that contract came so fast because she had politicked again, honey, and wrapped those legs around somebody. And if this is true and she negotiated on terms like that and got her a contract that fast, this woman was a man-eater. So the second version of Joan Crawford walks into Warner Brothers and they give her a movie called The Hollywood Canteen. And the movie did all right, but it is the second movie, honey, that was the killer, and it brought all type of drama into Joan's life. That movie was called Mildred Pierce. Now let me let you in on a little secret. While Joan has been going through this downfall and she's been out of work, kind of not getting any movies in the last few years, somebody else has risen to the top. She is now, or very near now, the queen of Hollywood, and that is, you guessed it, Bette Davis. And the reason why it's so significant, because Mildred Pierce that lead role was offered to Bette Davis first. And she was like, I don't want it, pass it on. And so they offered it to other actresses. Joan Crawford was so off the radar that they didn't even want to hand her the script. They didn't even want her to be it. Luckily, she had friends, or probably did some politicking, who knows. But whatever the case, they ended up letting her read for the script and she got the role. But honey, Bette Davis by this time is laughing, honey, because now here you is getting scripts that I've tossed away, baby. You getting my leftovers. It was her time for Get Back. And Joan was like, okay, you saying all that, that's good. Yeah, these are your leftovers, all right? Joan gets in that movie and straight murders that role. And let me tell you the basis of the movie. Joan is a mother and she has a wayward teenage daughter. The daughter does everything in her power to hurt her mother. She hates her mother. And her mother finds a boyfriend and finds out, honey, that her teenage daughter is sleeping around with the man. Joan tore up that Mildred Pierce role. I'm telling you, she had mothers everywhere siding with her. When she slapped the daughter in the movie, everybody was like, yeah, slap her again, slap her again. She really ate that role up. And so, of course, everybody's talking about how wonderful Joan Crawford is. Where has she been? We've missed her. We needed this. And Joan is like, what was that? What was that you were saying, Betty? But Joan was not finished, honey. Next, she was nominated for a Best Actress award. And Joan again was like, boom, heifer. Yeah, they might have chose you first, you know what I'm saying? But now I bet they glad that you didn't act this movie out. They didn't know that you couldn't carry this movie like me. And honey, Betty ain't had nothing to say. She was sitting up there, hush mouth. But Joan still didn't want to lift her foot off her neck, baby. And she killed it even more when she won for Best Actress. Bette Davis couldn't do nothing but turn her head. And just like that, Joan Crawford is back on the scene. And this go around is even better than the first time around, y'all, because this time she has the respect of everybody. Not only the fans, she has the respect of the people at the studio, because she is one of the first women who made herself a star 2 times. In the 1930s, she was the it girl. And now in the 1940s, she is the it modern woman. Her achievements are spectacular. And the achievements and the praise were so much that it was enough to carry her through the rest of the 1940s. She didn't have to look around for roles or anything like that. They were there on the table for her, just off of this one performance on Mildred Pierce. So her career is sealed, but her home life, not so much. Gossip says that she was hitting on those children, Christina and Chris, but they said Christina was getting the worst of it, like Joan was abusing her. The way Christina tells it, her mama was really doing the most, like beating her with clothes hangers, doing a lot. And really, I can believe this because let's be honest, Joan wasn't about those kids for real. Joan adopted those children out of publicity. You know what I'm saying? They were just another prop. That's why she always had the cameras on them. So I do believe that she didn't treat them the best. Now, do I believe she abused Christina to the extent that the movie Mommy Dearest showed? I don't know. But I do believe that she was hitting on them, and her maid or domestic servant, whatever you want to call her, she was saying that Joan would do things like after the cameras would leave, basically be like, get out of my face, or hey, come get these kids and get them out of here, probably pushing the kids upside the head, honey, and telling them to get out of her room. She really just didn't want anything to do with those children, and this put those children in a bad predicament. Now that's if you want to believe one side of gossip. The other side of gossip said that Joan really was not that bad to those children, and they said that Christina was a brat. She was upset because Joan was like, look, you're not an appreciative child. I'm not gonna just let you have money and just live off the money. So they said that Christina was upset about that, and that is why she put that movie out, Mommy Dearest, and all of that good stuff. I don't know. Like I said, I do believe that Joan Crawford didn't really care for those children. I think she was dissatisfied with them. She didn't like them, and really it's probably because she had showed them her worst side. So she wanted to start over. I think she really used these children as projects. So in 1947, she adopted 2 more children to replace the first 2 that she had, twins. Their names were Kathy and Cynthia. And she treated these twin girls way better than she treated Chris and Christina. She never hit on them. She treated them just like a mother should. They really loved their mother. I will say this, and I'm gonna leave it alone. You can tell that there was a clear distinction between the 2 sets of children, because when she passed away in her will, Joan Crawford did not leave anything for her oldest two children. And the note she left in the will was like, they won't be getting anything for reasons that they already know. Like, they already know what they did and why they ain't getting none of my money. But she did leave some money to those twins, Kathy and Cynthia. Another thing that happened pertaining to her home life is that her husband, Philip Terry, got sick of Joan Crawford. She was drinking a lot. She was treating them like they were her fans and not her husband. So he ain't want nothing else to do with that. He ended up leaving and walking out and they divorced in 1946. So now Joan has surfed that wave in her career all the way up to 1950. And when 1950 hits, she knows that the roles are kind of going to slow down. But Joan did not panic. Joan did not worry. Joan went back to the basics once again, politicking. And I mean, baby, she started politicking fast, right off the bat. She had a movie shot in 1950. She found out that the casting director was a married man with two children, a man by the name of Vincent Sherman. And here goes Joan, walking her way directly into his office, okay? Soon as she gets in there, walks straight up to him, right in front of his face, pulls up her skirt, don't have no panties on, and just got her stuff in this man's face, child. Doing too much. You are doing too much, man. Why is you got your stuff in this man's face? And that's exactly how Vincent Sherman felt. He was just like, okay, that's nice. Child, he ain't try to reach for her, ain't try to touch her or nothing. And Joan was sitting up there looking real stupid in the face. And so she pulled down her skirt and then she left. I would have been embarrassed, baby. Do you hear me? Baby, not only would I would have ran from the office, I would have ran from the set, I would have ran out of the studio, into my car, got home, and just shut myself up for 2 weeks. Woo, child, I would have been shamed. And I'm sure Joan was shamed, but she didn't have to worry long because soon after that, she found out that a hot new leading man, Kirk Douglas, was interested in her. So she and Kirk Douglas started going out on dates, very public dates, okay? And then one night, Joan Crawford invited him back to her house. And on this visit, y'all, I think Joan forgot just how old she was. So this is what happens. They get to the house. Kirk Douglas said as soon as they walk in the door, Joan Crawford strips off her dress. They lay down on the floor and they get busy. And he says while he's doing it, like, Joan is just kind of like not showing any type of passion or emotion. He said that it was so businessy and so clinical that it turned him off. And then he said in the middle of it, he had lifted up his arm. And Joan laying there gonna say, ooh, you're so clean. I love how clean you are. It's a good thing that you shaved up under your arms for that movie. Like, that's really good. And Kirk is like, what? Oh, you ain't like making no moaning noise. You ain't doing nothing. You sitting up there talking about how clean I am. So he said he was really, really turned off. It was a bad experience for him. Now, he did finish, though. As far as gossip says, he did finish. But still, though, he said he did not enjoy it. So after it was over, Joan took him by the hand and led him upstairs to see her children, and he got freaked out even more. Baby, he said Christina and Chris were strapped down to the bed, that their hair was perfect, like everything was in place, the room was spotless, and he said it just felt so mechanical. There was no feeling in any of it. And gossip says that he actually felt like those children looked like dolls. That's how perfect everything was. So this really creeped him out. And child, he got scared. Kirk Douglas took his little tail and got up out of there. So Joan blew it with Kirk Douglas because she was treating her affair with him, the lovemaking, the same way as she treated it when she was younger. You know what I'm saying? There was no passion, no emotion. And that's cool when she was a young woman with the older man because the older man don't need all that. He's turned on by the fact that he's with a younger woman. You know, this little tight body up under me, this pretty face, no wrinkles, that turns him on enough. But Kirk Douglas is younger than you, ma'am. If he want a tight body and a pretty face, he can go sleep with a woman his age. He's looking for you to be like Anna and Gordy up under that thing. He's looking for some tricks or something like that. And you just laying there acting like that's all good. Kirk Douglas said never again. And since she blew this whole thing, there was no strings to be pulled for her. He wasn't finna make no connections for her. Then she decides to throw her net out to somebody else. Co-star John Ireland. And this happened in 1955. Even her sleeping with him didn't do anything. There was no movements made and no strings pulled for her. So he was just another body she had on her list. So Joan started to see, okay, I keep casting my net to these Hollywood men. It's not getting me anything anymore. I am getting older. I need to face the fact. So now it's time for me to start thinking about my money. And so that's when she went from trying to hook movies to hooking money. And once again, got a heck of a catch, and that was Mr. Alfred Steele. He was the president and CEO of Pepsi Cola. He was so enthralled by Joan Crawford. He just felt like she was just so classy. You know, she smelled like money. She looked like money. You know what I'm saying? She was one of those elite type of women, and then she was a Hollywood actress. Oh yes, this is what he wanted. So they soon became married. He loved her so much that he offered her a chair on the board of Pepsi Cola. But then things come crashing down when Alfred Steele dies in 1959. And then that is when the other people that are on the board try to kick Joan off of the board. But Joan is like, hold on, baby, you don't do me like that. I'm not going anywhere. And she fought them, and she was successful in fighting them. So the 1950s are over, and now we are in the 1960s. And Joan is an old lady now. Like, that's just what it is. There's no more of this politicking, trying to get lead roles and things like that. She knows that is impossible. She has aged. And then somebody comes to her and asks her to star in a movie called Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. The movie is about two sisters. Joan is cast as one sibling. This is the sweet sibling. The other sibling is a loudmouth. She's crazy. She got mind problems. And they're like, who are we going to cast? What are we going to do? And Joan is like, I got somebody for you to cast. And they're like, who? Who do you know that'll fit this role? And Joan is like, there's only one loudmouth, nasty woman that I know, and that's Bette Davis. Cast her in the role. So here we have arch enemies, honey, starring in the movie together. See, Joan was probably trying to be funny, but look, y'all, she did not understand how much resentment that Bette Davis had towards her. It was bad. Bette Davis got on that set and started like kicking Joan Crawford. She was hitting her for real. She was pulling her hair, dragging her across the floor. And this is all things that were supposed to happen for the movie, but Bette Davis was really doing these things. She kicked Joan Crawford in the head. She really picked on Joan Crawford bad, leaving bruises on that woman. And Joan Crawford was kind of like appalled at this treatment. You know what I mean? Like, you're going too far, Bette. I know that we have problems with each other, but dang. So the movie is released, and after the movie is released, both ladies are doing interviews and they are going at it, talking about each other badly. This made for great publicity for that movie. So that movie was like a box office hit. For this movie, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Bette Davis was nominated for an Oscar for Best Actress, and Joan Crawford was not nominated for anything. And Bette Davis is like, booyah, in your face. I knew I can act better than you. There's no denying it. We were in this movie together. It was my performance and it was your performance, and I beat you, Joan Crawford. This time it was Joan who ain't had nothing to say. She was sitting up there looking stupid and looking hush mouth. But in the end, Joan is going to find a way to make things work out for herself. So Joan got messy, baby. I mean, she got messy. She called all of the other actresses that were nominated for the Best Actress Oscar, asking them, hey, if you can't make it to Oscar night, I will be there and I will accept your award for you. Is this okay? Every single one of those actresses were like, thank you, yes. If for some reason I cannot make it Oscar night, you can go out there and pick up my Oscar. Then Oscar night, and Bette Davis is just chilling, waiting to see if her name is going to be called. Then all of a sudden, Joan Crawford walks back to the back, and Betty is like, does she not know that this is for the people who were nominated? This is not for people that just appeared in the movies. Like, what is she doing here? Then an announcer came up and he started to announce the winner for Best Actress. It just so happened that the woman that won was not there. That was Anne Bancroft. Joan threw them shoulders back and walked out on that stage to accept that award. She had beaten Bette Davis yet again. Bette just couldn't keep up. That whole thing where she was supposed to go on stage and get the shine, hold that little golden man and give a speech, Joan stole that from her. It was Joan on stage. It was Joan up there looking glamorous with the earrings, the do, you know what I'm saying, holding the statue. It was all about Joan Crawford yet again. This little episode really left a bad taste in Bette Davis's mouth. She hated Joan Crawford for the rest of her life. Even after Joan died, Bette was going around on interviews talking about Joan Crawford, I can't stand her. And did you know that she slept with every man in Hollywood except for Lassie? That hate, that envy, that jealousy, it just sat like right there in her heart. And she took it to the grave. This is my opinion. I know y'all gonna get mad. Y'all always get mad at me over my opinions. But in my opinion, Joan Crawford was very clearly the winner of this feud. She beat Bette Davis at every turn. By the time the 1970s hit, Joan is really doing nothing more than making appearances here and there, you know, public appearances, letting her fans see her and things like that. And then in 1974, she does an appearance with Rosalind Russell, a longtime friend of hers. And while she's there, of course, they're taking pictures, they're snapping pictures. Well, the next day when the pictures are printed, Joan is mortified at the way she looks. She thinks that she looks terrible. She didn't know that she aged this much. She felt like that her makeup could cover something. Babe, and when she saw those pictures, saw those wrinkles, saw everything just drooping, she said, oh no, baby. If this is what the public sees when I'm out in public, then they'll never see me again. I'm never coming back out. And she didn't. She locked herself up in her apartment, never to appear in public again. And the last photo that I know of that we have is actually from that event with Rosalind Russell. If you guys know different or have other photos, please let me know because I would love to see them. So that happened in 1974. After that, since Joan had shut herself away, she kind of became inactive. She was just sitting there, just laying there. So of course she started to fade away. Things stopped working one by one. Then on May 6th, 1977, Joan Crawford passed away. Woo, y'all, didn't that woman have a heck of a life? And I see now why people respect her so much. I see, because she really brought herself up from nothing to become a goddess of the screen. This has been the Old Hollywood Scandalous Life of Miss Joan Crawford. Go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, tell me how you feel. I love you guys so much, and y'all already know that, honey. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.